In our Alka-Seltzer lab, we explored what happens when we put water, or H2O, and vegetable oil, which are both pure substances, as well as compounds, because, as we know, a compound is a combination of two different elements. We have two hydrogens and an oxygen, and when we put that together, we get H2O, and that's our compound. It is also a molecule, as is vegetable oil. The other two things we add are a food coloring, and an Alka-Seltzer tablet, which is a solid set aside from the three liquids into a plastic water bottle. To start the lab, we filled up a water bottle with water, or H2O, about 3/4 the way up. Then we added vegetable oil on top, as shown there. Now, when we added vegetable oil to the water, it didn't actually mix, but it's still a heterogeneous mixture, or a suspension, because it's sitting on top of the water. It's on top of the water because of its physical property of density is less. It has a lesser density than water does. After we add the vegetable oil to the water, we then add some blue food coloring to the mix, and that gives us a new mixture called a homogeneous mixture. And a homogeneous mixture, as we know, is a mixture that looks the same throughout and is very hard to separate. So when we added the food color, or the food coloring down here, it didn't actually mix here. Instead, it sunk down because it has a higher density than the vegetable oil, and sort of burst down here into our blue food coloring, and it colored our water blue. And that's also sort of a solution, although we could say that the food coloring is a solute. However, it doesn't dissolve, and the water would be the solvent, because it's what, quote-unquote, dissolves the solute. And then it would be what we call a solution, which is a different type of a homogeneous mixture, which is what we have right down here. For our final part of the lab, we added an Alka-Seltzer tablet into the water bottle. Now, Alka-Seltzer is a stomach acid relief tablet, and you put it in a glass of water, and it'll sink to the bottom because it has a higher density than water, and it will disperse. It will start to dissolve because it is a solute. As mentioned before, a solute is something that gets dissolved in a solvent, which is the water, or the H2O, and it creates a solution, as mentioned before. But this is a real sort of solute because this is actually being dissolved physically. It's a solid in water, and it gets dissolved. And then you would drink it, and it would, because Alka-Seltzer is a base, it neutralizes the stomach acids you have. Now, when we add it to a water bottle filled with food coloring, vegetable, and water, it has a similar sort of change in where it sinks to the bottom, right down there, and it starts releasing its gaseous air bubbles, and it picks up some of the water with it, and it sits right up there. It might be a little hard to see, but there are air bubbles sitting in the vegetable oil because it's not dense enough to sink into the water. It has a lesser density. And this is no longer making a mixture. This is a chemical reaction. It's a chemical reaction because when the Alka-Seltzer touches the water and reacts with it in a way where it dissolves and releases all these air bubbles.